I will apologise right now for the poor quality. Unfortunately, I've just had to run out of a meeting to do this. And it turns out I'm on the side of a very busy road underneath some scaffolding going up. So, anyway, welcome to today's Grey Market Blast with myself and the amazing Angie Setzer, who will be providing you all with a rapid roundup of the latest pricing flows and market moving news in agricultural markets. But before she does, I best get the legals out of the way. So, as usual, nothing discussed on this space of session constitutes trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ Global Limited, Trainers PIQ or PIQ Suite, or indeed that of the hosts, which, as you know by now, is Angie and myself, Ryan. Happy, what day
Woohoo!
is it?
Super.
Wednesday. It's Wednesday.
Wednesday. I don't know. I think it's the 100th day of the month, though time is flying by super fast. So I keep saying it's February, and I'm like, wait, no, we're
Same.
almost halfway through March. Like, what the hell's happened
Getting a
here?
little bit
Um,
concerned about that, I'll be honest.
you and I both, honestly. And I was just chuckling to myself because I was like, remember when we started this, I was like, oh gosh, what are we going to talk about every day at 9:15 Eastern? And now here I am looking haggard with bags and dark circles under my eyes, but
Still
plenty to
looking
talk
lovely.
about.
Still looking
Right.
lovely.
Aw, thanks. You're required by law to say that. So I appreciate it. I guess starting today, where are we? What are we doing? I'm not really sure. We're implementing the aluminum and steel tariffs. So that is one of the things that we're really watching and one of the sort of knee-jerk reactions that we're seeing to start the day. Both Canada, I haven't had a chance to kind of dig through their response just yet, but Canada has come out and said these are our responses to all of the different tariffs. We did see that back and forth yesterday with Premier Ford. Basically for those of us in the U.S. that are like, what the heck's a premier? Governor, we'll call him the governor of Ontario if we want. I don't, sorry, any Canadians if that makes you mad, but just to kind of put it into perspective, we saw this back and forth. We were going to see a rate increase on electricity exports into the U.S. Trump responded and said, do it. We'll double your steel and aluminum tariffs. Ford responded with something else. I put on Twitter, it was you can't triple stamp a double stamp. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. And in the end of the day, Lutnick stepped in and we kind of calmed everything down, but not really. We're all still not feeling like one big happy family. Trump later in the day said, yeah, the only way that you can really avoid this is to become the 51st state. So, stay tuned. We've got a whole host of drama there. We did see the EU respond. We have the aluminum and steel tariffs. So it isn't new tariffs. I feel like that's kind of important to point out. It's just a removal of the exemptions that had been put in place by Biden and Trump. I mean, we had negotiated this before. We had steel and aluminum tariffs introduced in 18. We saw them change in 20 and some of these other things. So we've been down this road. We've had negotiations. And so with Trump coming in and saying that he's going to remove that exclusion, start charging those tariff rates, the EU responded and said, okay, well, the tariffs that we charged you the last go around are coming back on April 1st. And then a whole other round of tariffs is something that we're working on. We have to agree to, of course, because it's the EU. So all members have to agree that this is cool. But there is a second round of tariffs that could be put on in mid-April as a response. Mostly, I think, probably an outline of what they will do when it comes to the reciprocal tariffs, which are likely to impact them even more than the aluminum and steel. And so included in that list, now in the first tranche, I don't think they targeted, and it's, oh my God, it's so messy. But I don't know what was targeted in the first tranche. It was agricultural. I don't think corn and soybeans were. I think soybeans is listed as possible in the second, the mid-April group of products that could be hit. But nonetheless, it's so messy right now that everyone's just like, abandon ship. We'll see what happens. Now, the EU brought in or has brought in around 2.5 hold on, I got to go to my numbers. Okay. So far the EU has brought in around 2.5 million metric tons of corn. Most of that has gone to Spain. And a lot of that is because the Ukraine corn crop was pretty poor in quality and lower from a supply standpoint a year ago. So Spain's been bringing in a decent chunk of U.S. corn. Comparatively speaking, we're up around 2.2 million metric ton, or, for those of you who are metric ton challenged at home, that's 86 million bushels of corn that has went to the EU that could potentially be targeted per, what the rumors are this morning. Thoughts that ethanol could be hit as well. So we're just messy. We just don't know. And so that uncertainty is coming in and weighing heavily upon the markets. We got corn and beans down 9 cents this morning. We've also got the Black Sea ceasefire proposal that is making its rounds. We're going to have our high-ranking officials from the U.S. travel to Russia. I think it's tomorrow. I think it's a Thursday. Maybe it's today. Those days are blending together. But in the next couple of days, we will have the U.S. brief Russia on what the ceasefire proposal looks like, and maybe we'll see some steps towards peace. I would say we had the agreement to the ceasefire in theory yesterday with Ukraine, and Ukraine and the U.S. have agreed that they will move forward with the minerals deal, and the U.S. will reinstate military aid and intelligence sharing. Um, but we saw Russia almost immediately within the hour, and maybe this was a pre-planned attack that they couldn't shut off in time. I don't know, but it hit Odessa's port, hit a ship that was loading wheat, and killed, three crew members. So, then in response, or not even in response to that, we saw Ukraine targeting Kursk overnight because we've seen North Korea and Russian forces pushing Ukraine forces out of Kursk. So we have talk of all of these ceasefires and these proposals, and the U.S. is going to be working with Ukraine again, which is very good. We talked about this for the last week or so, that to see the U.S. step away from Ukraine could be, one of those butterfly effect sort of things that we see for years and years. So to see a rekindling of our relationship is good. But again, just because, and I've seen people say this, like, oh, well, the ceasefire is super bearish and it opens up another leg down to grains. I don't understand that logic. I get it. If we're, like I said the other day, for cavemen, yes, war bullish, resolution bearish. But when it comes down to it, we really haven't seen a disruption in the flow of grain or anything like that. So I going forward, obviously peace is good and it provides stability and it helps us to not have this sort of risk hanging over our head. But I would argue that we really haven't had a huge amount of risk premium built into the grain markets because of the war for 2.5, 3 years now, almost. So that's the other thing that we're paying attention to. We had a USDA report yesterday, point three. USDA left corn exports unchanged, and so a lot of folks are now going to point at that and say, well, they don't anticipate we'll see an increase in exports. This is not anything that really matters, or this is bearish. The USDA is doesn't agree that the sales on the books are going to either happen. I guess that's the part that I'm really scratching my head on, and I'm not. I want to kind of reiterate, I am not insanely bullish, or I'm not crazily bullish about corn that I'm completely got tunnel vision. I just have spent the last 2 years telling everyone to trust the data and trust the process from the USDA. And now I'm questioning what they're doing when it comes to sales being over 400 million bushels larger than a year ago in corn. With them still expecting only 158 million bushel increase. We're into March, and some folks have said, well, the inspections are slower. Or the inspection numbers are, we have to export 252 million bushels a week, and that's a tall order. We exported 71 million bushels this past week, and we have a huge book. If you talk to anyone on the commercial side of things and the freight side of things, we have a lot of exports that are coming into play in April and May. And so I'm really struggling with the USDA slow rolling this adjustment when we have such obvious data, widespread in data. And so I may eat my words come summer. Obviously we have a lot of time to work through, but folks will point at that as a bearish thing, that the USDA didn't make an adjustment. I'm going to point at it and say it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, compared to what we've been seeing. So outside of that, now our attention is going to start to turn to new crop and acres, and everyone is discussing, just how many more corn acres we may see, and what that will mean to price. And yeah, I guess at this point, sentiment wise, we're just all going to kind of go to the sidelines for a bit. You'll probably see some selling pressure. Obviously, we tried to trade higher yesterday, failed. The close, we had a pretty poor close overall. And so now we're going to test to see where the downside support is in this market. Hopefully May beans will hold around this $10 range. 981, I think, was the old low that we had spiked down to here a week or so ago. And then corn, 460 ish is where we're trading right now. I guess we'll see what the day ahead brings. And yeah, I wouldn't describe what I'm having as fun at this point, but we'll see what today has to bring,
I
or
think
what today will bring
I think
anyway.
the problem is, no matter what the headline is, it feels like we could get a tweet or whatever the following day, or no, sorry, the following hour that completely reverses it. So how anyone's supposed to price risk at the moment is beyond me.
Well, that's the thing, like, and that's what I said this morning, like, I actually, like, literally the line was, "The worries of Trump and stock market sell-off has wiped out trillions of dollars in value, with thoughts losses could grow as we work through a season of tape bombs." And so that's where we're at, you know what I mean? Like, even if you know exactly what should be taking place, or even if you have an idea, like, that's the conversation amongst friends of mine, is it's like, "Okay, no matter what really is happening when it comes to headline and sentiment and emotion, we still have an incredibly tight physical supply, physical balance sheet, in corn, and potentially could in wheat. Soybeans, it doesn't feel that way, though, supply availability here for the next little bit will probably be interesting with the logistical hiccups that we've seen out of Brazil and some of these other things. But yeah, just the pure uncertainty of what things will look like in 3 or 6 months from now, is weighing heavy on things. And then, of course, we did see CPI data come in this morning, a little bit cooler than what traders had anticipated. And so if you have seen anyone kind of come in and buy grains on the idea that we're going to, hedge against inflation or whatever by doing that, to see cooler CPI and the talk of rate cuts and some of these other things, like, we just have some conflicting ideas, like tariffs are going to be inflationary, but the economy is slowing, yada yada yada. There's just, it's kind of a mess. And we'll work through it. Like, don't get me wrong, but right now it's is about as clear as mud as to what the next steps will be for really anyone out there.
Which, which is exactly why people. Oh, hang on. Sorry, the Rozzers are after me. The police are after me.
I get
But this
ya.
is exactly why people need to tune in every day for us when I'm not stuck in traffic, and also
Right.
why people need to register and use PIQ Suite for the
Yes.
breaking news, and it's all completely free to use. So check that out. But Angie,
Totally worth it.
thank you so much for as always. I apologise. I'll find somewhere a lot quieter tomorrow. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, and yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.
Have a good day, guys.